The Great War had ended, but summer, this year vigorous as a swatted hornet, was here again, and the tail end of September was far away. One crime ended, and now a new one swaggered over the border. An empty whiskey glass on the porch railing in the sun. A sign face down in the sand. Hours drifting, problems nested in barbed wire and sagebrush. Somewhere, a sotto voce dream, pushed out warm as the hot weather. Bitter, hurt, broken, hit too hard by what slipped away. Spilled. No rodeo come to town, nothing to be late to. Nothing changes here, not the immobile animal sun, not the hot dust, not the tarry braids of long cold nights, not the flat and torn carcasses littered like dead-end signs along Route 93. The dark, a lonely place of waiting, as it was, fades. The hunger does not. The day's immense light pinches the terrain here, beats it down, chews it with wild teeth. No one here can recall mild. Most believe it to be a lie. No one here gets to fall back. The front line has always been the front line. You don't see a wild eye or anything sprout here. It's a small town, barely a town by modern standards, 2 streets wide, east to west, 5 long, running north to south, no downtown, not a garden to be found, no newspaper, no stoplight, no need for a sheriff these days. Everything burning, but no fun, no excitement, closest juke joint 30-odd miles away. Lots of half-crazy sitting around here, trying to sidestep the seeking sun. On porches, on fences with the broken bottle wind chimes and steer and coyote skulls. Out behind the shed, hiding in the weak, limited shade, light and dark. The course, head devouring its tail, flows, repeats unchanged. They laid the flowered heart of innocence in the ground last week, anointed her eyes with silver coins, whispered a dry prayer, threw in a good handful of salt, and hoped. Hoped the magic cloth they wrapped her in would keep away blue dress Annie. Hoped the salt would keep Annie's tongue in her mouth, if it came to that. Didn't really think it would work, but Hayes said, "Fuck, can't hurt, can it?" Maria Louisa cried at the thought of more violence, cried through the remaining hours of light, and when the stage roared with darkness, kept right on crying. A shot glass and a bottle on the table. 6 lonely feet away, sequestered, a cup of black coffee, hot an hour back. Hayes looked out of the window and mumbled something about the plastic bag keeping the smell contained. "Maybe," he whispered. "Might." Maria Louisa wanted to laugh. After the tears, she wanted anything that was not a crown of pain. Her hands were on her knees, kept them from shaking. "Should have burned her. Ain't no music in that black bed. $40 for a dress she'll never dance in. A waste. Out here everything's wasted. At least we didn't waste money on shoes." It was almost dark. The crimson scar of sun was losing its battle with night. It didn't want to ship out, yet what could it do? The black came tumbling down, and no one could fix the broken sky when the black thawed and stretched out. Maria Louisa took a sip of cold coffee, feared to look up, to catch a glimpse of dark staining the window. Coyotes would be prowling soon. The full moon was coming. Blue dress Annie would be wandering. He saw the black, feared it. They should have burned that shack and her in it when they had the chance. Should have filled her belly with rusty nails. She'd be full then. She'll never be full, Hayes said. That old bitch is as empty as 40 miles of barren sand. Maria Louisa remembered the bells of a church in Boston she heard when she was a girl. Haunted, lonely bells. No one had offered a hand to calm their dim mourning. She could hear them now. She wanted to get up and turn on the radio. Or the TV. Maybe bake a pie. She didn't get up. Couldn't. Hayes was pacing round the room, walked the worn hardwood like he was a rodent on a wheel, mindlessly racing toward an escape it couldn't see. No salvation in the circle. Wanted to go back to the window and see if anything had changed. Didn't. Wanted to. Really did. But he didn't. Couldn't. Stunned with violence, or the language of poison and splinters, he knew hope and a prayer and all the wishing in the world, or in a jar of home brew, wouldn't change shit. He looked at Maria Louisa, frozen in all that's hard to bear, still as a cold evening without a breeze. Shackled, tortured, bound by a noose of left-over shame, looked at the plain gold band on her finger. What good had it done? Didn't fix it. Didn't bring grace. Didn't even make him stop drinking. Not for long, anyway. Lot of fucking good it did. This place sucks the energy out of everything. He turned his gaze from his wife's quivering hands. Sucked Amy dry as a bone. He'd tried to love her, really had, in his fashion, quiet, closed at first, trying not to step on her toes as they danced. And she tried back, hard sometimes, even when the parts were uncomfortable and worn thin. Some days, playing the role of an enemy at the gate, she pushed hard, ragged sometimes. Weary and sometimes scared of the next page, he pulled back. He walked the walk. She turned and walked away. The sun had watched it. The moon spent hundreds of nights watching too. Jibes, smoke, and lies. Mercy, no part of it. Ashes to ashes, and no map in the king-sized bed. Flat out of treasure. Full of time and the ruins of bridges burned. Lonely afternoons when the leaking sun, tired of drifting and was shutting down, her eyes searched the highway, or his locked on her throat. Never a fist, but that didn't mean it didn't bruise deep. September and April, sometimes gently in the orchard of distances they stand. No sentimental day trips, no translations. Moments. Ill blossoms, blind and pensive, whisper forever in the mirror. Silhouettes of the nightmare loiter. After what's happened, they folded, turned away from the open book. There is no strength in the echoes. Alone and alone, ghosts landing, tiny hands on a bleak avenue where the sun was turned off. The hours, emptied, pass, leave poison. Shadows hung on the wall. More than a lot of days they didn't have the ammunition to meet the lingering shadows head-on. Some nights the whiskey rubbed hard. He shot her when she rattled. She shoved her dreams in old boxes of then, and wondered why he couldn't get anything right. That night, both were whiskey-fueled, drilling, waving off consequences and other arrangements. They were fighting again, revved up, screaming like horns of accusation and doom. Their daughter at the top of the stairs, crying for them to stop, begging for the 100th time. She slipped, tumbling. A short scream came all the way to the bottom and touched their feet. A week had gone by, and Maria Louisa hadn't got out of that chair. Didn't take to her bed, dozed right there at the table. Didn't think a single word that didn't scratch, tighten behind her eyes, her shoulders, the grieving in her chest. Day and night wrapped in lost love and gestures, now smoke awakened in a mind of blood fire. She glanced at every side, every nook, saw little, but too late. No noises. Voiceless, the shaking of broken dreams. She turned away from the failed declaration on his face. A week gone by and Hayes still paced, walked to the window and stared, walked to the cabinet over the sink and got out another bottle of whiskey. Day and night soaked by the view out of the window and the naked whiskey. Not a bird or pickup or car passed. What passed for a tree out in the yard of sand didn't sway. Couldn't. No probing wind weighed in heat from farther down the line came. Yesterday and anguish, wounded matadors drunk on their own inability, couldn't work up a yes, move on, remained rooted to the floor. The sky could not even summon a cloud or a silver bird. Dust came and settled wherever it liked. Barely a sound. He turned away from the hard time on her unmoving lips, both broken, disintegrating, rigid, unsteady, trembling, blind, pride wrapped in something they couldn't swallow, without a crutch. Morning, the 7th day. The coyotes had gone to bed. She made him eggs and toast. He pretended to eat, washed down the few bites with a few shots, went to the window. There was no music in the air, no wind. Each memory in the shooting gallery cried. Noon came and burned out. The sun lost its grip. Evening was slain. Wind and blackness came. Over a scab of rock the moon came up, sat there, still as any dead man or junked wreck, without a sound. For the first time in a week he went outside, walked through the back gate to the grave. His face turned to the small swell of sand. Lost, he didn't kneel, didn't think to pray. Smoked with one hand, drank with the other. Wanted to say something to her. Couldn't tighten his fingers around a single word. Maria Louisa came out. Stood there. Could have been a cigar store Indian after a fire. She had words, but they were caught up. Her hands held nothing of use. The weather was almost black, and they heard the voice singing, parched like a scratch or a blade, or dangerous wings stained in cold and dust. Sleep all day, in that box of dust. They took me away from my babies, from my life. Sons of bitches and whores, cheap fucking whores, took away my life. Come up from the blackest deeps of the dry earth she walked, coming toward the wire, toward the fence, coming in the full light of the glaring moon, arms rattling and shaking. Wasn't a ghost, wasn't dead. They killed her, sure, sent her down into dangerous ground, but she didn't lie down and take it, not for long. With curses of hellfire and abhorrence, curses woven in the grimy inferno of greedy hearts, they dumped in her grave one nail of spat venom with each shovelful of dry sand. And all that pain and hate, mixed in that awful fevered darkness, they'd got up in her bones, oozed through her arteries and veins and cavities, moulded and remodelled her. She shook with each black pit thorn as it rippled through her. All her hate and longing, and all their wide-lipped curses bit deep, bit and bit over and over and over as the moon shone down. 80 long years, and no rattlesnake or coyote or bird or lizard would come near the cursed ground of Annie's grave. 80 long years she laid there, festering in the sunless deeps, each night waiting for the next to fall. Then she came. When the moon came up and shouted, stepped right out of that desert oven grave as if it had a door on it, came and took what was due her before a single week had passed. And this night of wide-mouthed moon, kissing every weakness, exposing every silent stain of shadow with its great silver eye, she was coming again. Coming with her grunting procession of babies following. Her babies, not a one with shoes, some naked, every one dead, eyes locked on the hem of her threadbare, faded blue dress. Took away my life, took my babies from my bosom, coming. Took and took, hellfire eyes ripping the night. Hayes emptied his shotgun. Maria Louisa tried to scream. Coming. Hard as he could, he threw his shotgun at her. Missed. Took. Coming. From a hell, a sewer blistered in sin. Beneath a hell, stained white bone showing through sunken split cheek and gashed forehead. Cankerous skin on her hands and chin nibbled on, dripping with the filth of death's wasteland. Dry, split skin spotted with the unholy muck of ebony pastures, smouldering with repellent things broken free of their moorings and crawled up to her as she lay in her box, shut below the cold night air, crawled up and rubbed off. Coming, a corpse of disquiet, a twisted corpse of blood-red gestures, murmuring and embroidered with the unearthly. Coming, a black lump of hate and desire, coming, one slow hard step, and another, coming, and no man or damnation would turn her. Coming, a slow-fire hell train, nothing but moon and sand in her way. He looked for a rock or a board to throw. Nothing. Maria Louisa knotted her fingers to pray, but she'd lost her use for it, and couldn't remember the way. Coming. Close. Too close. They could smell her ruin. It bit like spurs. He made a fist. Blue dress Annie laughed. A leather hiss, low and hungry. Over the shaking stump of her fingerless left hand. On another night you will ride with me, both of you, hearts and foul flesh. Every heart-stopping, babbled lunatic tale of blue dress Annie's black dagger claws to dig deep, and glaring vicious teeth, full-blown animal terror in their minds, they ran from the grave of their daughter. Ran like they were running from their own sin. Annie stood over that small grave and her babies fell down to their knees, and with small leathered hands and black razor claws dug. With nary a bark or a screech, ripped that hard-baked sand from the ground until they touched the hardwood box of empty space. Then Annie wailed, and the top of that hardwood box flew open, and she spread her arms. "Come to Mama, child." Maria Louisa and Hayes's 6-year-old daughter Amy, white Spanish lace, Sunday school dress and box-store cheap faux white pearl barrettes, broken neck and all, came into her arms. Her iron deadwood arms pulled that girl in, flesh to coarse flesh, hugged her tight, gripped the small of that child's back with the one good hand, the one the townfolk had not sheared the fingers from. And she bent and kissed the child on the top of her head. Kissed her like she was one of heaven's perfect angels. Desperate for real love, the girl clung to her. "Mama loves you. You be a good girl now, and do what Mama says." Annie's pointed nose twitched in disgust. Her long tongue slid from rank autumnal lips, licked the salt from the dead girl's face. Another agonized twitch and winch. She spat twice. Carrying that girl in her twisted arms, Annie walked into the desert night, back to her Bible-black funeral nest. And her babies, 17 scabbed, dirty cherubs she had come to claim over the years, followed. Nose in the nape of the child's neck, a gentle nudging. "You are a gift, child. a sweet gift. Nothing here changes. 80 years ago the townfolk took her life. Said she was a whore and brujeria. Said she poisoned the reverend's wife with terrible and esoteric hechizos so she could get in his bed. Cut her, beat her, opened her flesh in 100 places, put her down in a hole to rot. Down in a hot, dry hole with no coffin for the insects and time to feed on. They took her from her babies. And when one of theirs died, Annie came straight away for her baby, came to get a piece of her life back. When one of the townsfolk died, Blue Dress Annie came from that dark sand where dark dreams roiled to the repast with her starving, jackal-faced babies, need hissing over withered, tiny dry tongues, and did something different with the flesh. Lips parted in death over the prize, her dark, lean children leave few shreds of meat for the empty sand's other scavengers to unwrap. Leave bones for the sun to burn away.